Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blue, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, one of the things Ron Rivera has talked about, and there are a couple of things that I've taken a strong liking to. My favorite Ron Rivera or Ron-ism is interesting versus important. Another thing that I've taken a strong liking to is telling the players what they can do versus talking about what they can't do. And so much has been made of what Washington can't do. Do you know how many times I've been told this season by a rival fan or listening to the talking heads on network television, how many times we've been told we can't do something? We've been dismissed. How many times we've been told, oh, that's cute, they're not making the playoffs, this, that, and the third. And look, the job is still unfinished. There's work left to be done. Nothing has finality to it. We haven't clinched anything. We haven't won anything. We haven't done anything. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, there's still football left to be played and things to be decided. And what we do in the final month of this regular season is going to go a long way in determining what the outcome of this season that has been a hell of a ride is going to be. That said, a lot has been made about what we can't do, you know. Oh, you can't win with Carson Wentz. And we weren't winning with Carson Wentz. But we don't know what would have happened if we would have corrected the offensive line. And what we're doing now with the rushing attack and this, that, and the third, who knows what Carson Wentz would have been able to do with better complementary football. He wasn't privy to that early in the season. Unfortunately, he didn't have that at his disposal. It was too much reliance upon him throwing the football. There wasn't enough emphasis. And again, Brian Robinson didn't come back until week 5. So this whole transformation of this offense couldn't take place without Brian Robinson, and he wasn't healthy until week 5. And Wentz was out of the lineup after week 6. So the offensive line didn't stabilize itself until, week 5, really, when we got Tyler Larson back. So there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of what ifs, but who knows what would have happened. I'm glad we have Taylor Heinicke in the lineup. I'll just say that. You can't win with Taylor Heinicke. He's a backup quarterback, right? Can't survive with him. Guy throws a pick every game. Well, we're 5-1 with Taylor Heinicke. We're moving on up like the Jeffersons. Went from an afterthought to the 8th seed to now the 7th seed and in the playoffs if it started today. We're finding ways to get it done. You can't become a power rush team. You can't be a ground and pound team. You're not built for that. Oh, that's what the offensive line is doing. That's what Brian Robinson's doing. That's what we did to the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what we did to the Houston Texans. That's what we did to the, Atlanta Falcons. That's what we've been doing down the stretch of this season. Can't get Terry McLaurin the ball. Well, he's top 10 in receiving yards in the league. I mean, there's been so many things that we can't do. But you know what? I want to talk about what we can do, which is what Ron Rivera continues to emphasize. I want to tell the players what we can do. These guys have overcome copious amounts of adversity this year, whether it's on the field or off the field. We know the noise has been loud. It's always loud around these parts. It reached a crescendo this year when there was news and talk of the owner potentially selling. Really haven't heard anything on that front in a while now, which makes me a bit nervous, but that's another conversation for another day. But the players tuned it out. Ron Rivera did a great job of delivering a message that resonated with the players, and they've continued to find ways to get it done on the field. Let me tell you what this team can do. They can win football games ugly. Let me tell you what this team can do. They can rush the football effectively. Let me tell you what this team can do. They can get the football to their wide receivers, contrary to popular belief. Let me tell you what else this team can do. They can play above average to borderline elite defense. Let me tell you what this team can do. It can survive without Chase Young for almost an entire season. Let me tell you what this team can do. It can develop young talent. There was a lot of people, Everyone's talking about Chris Harris. He doesn't need to be given any credit. He sucks. Who's this defense in the secondary ever developed? Well, I'll tell you who they developed. They developed Benjamin St-Juste. In just his second year in the league, he looks like one of the better young corners. Let me tell you who else they've developed. Derek Forrest. In just his second year, he looks like one of the better young safeties in the league. We know what Cam Curl has done in his first 3 years in this league. The secondary continues to grow right before our very eyes. And it's a lot of young players. A lot of question marks about Jack and Ron's ability to coach up the position that both played in the league. You want me to tell you what they can do? They can identify talent at the linebacker position, and they can coach it up with the emergence of Jamin Davis this season. A lot was made of Daron Payne. Is he worth the money? Should we pay him? I think we've answered that question already, or I think he's answered that question already. Pay that man. But a lot was made of Washington after the 1-4 start. Look, I'm guilty as charged. I can't sit here and throw the rock and then hide my hand. I was critical of this football team. I was critical of this coaching staff. And they deserve to be criticized. But this team has responded by winning 6 out of their last 7. Who was thinking playoffs? Who was using the P word after the first 5 weeks of the season, after that debilitating loss to the Titans? Who was using the P word after barely eking by the Chicago Bears on a dreadful Thursday night showing, 12-7? Who was using the P word? Who was even thinking about that? Now look at this football team. I don't know what this season holds for us. I don't know how it ends. I just know this. This team is capable of a lot more than people want to give them credit for. This team can make the playoffs. This team can turn around an 0-2 start in the NFC East and have a winning record against the rest of the NFC East. Or at bare minimum, get back to 500 in the NFC East at 3-3 when it's all said and done. This team is fully capable of beating quality opponents. They're going to be put to a test. They've already passed one with flying colors on the road against Philadelphia earlier this season. They're going to be put to the test again this week against the Giants. And again after the bye week against the Giants. And again on the road at San Francisco. And again against Dallas. Don't forget about that game against Cleveland. Deshaun Watson is back. They may not be playing for playoff football, but they're going to come in to FedEx late in the season and try to do us. But you know what? In the past, I'd be nervous. And I'm going to be nervous regardless. But I'd be nervous for all the wrong reasons. This team can't handle success. We don't win the games we're supposed to win. You know what this team can do? They can win the game that they're supposed to win. I.e. Houston, i.e. i.e. Chicago, i.e. Indianapolis. Doesn't have to be pretty. There are no style points. Just wins and losses. i.e. Atlanta. We were supposed to beat the Falcons at home. It wasn't supposed to be easy, and it wasn't going to be pretty, but we were supposed to find a way to get it done, and we did. This team can do a lot of things. And one of those things that people keep telling me on social media that this team can't do is they can't make the playoffs. Not with Taylor Heinicke at quarterback. We'll see about that. I just know one thing. Ron Rivera continues to tell the players what they can do. And so far, they've done a hell of a lot of things that even us as a fan base weren't sure that they could do. Keep getting it done, fellas. We go to in other news. We heard from the coordinators today, Jack Del Rio. We heard from Scott Turner. Excuse me. We also got an update on the injury report. Shout out to shout out to Joey Sly. He's a Sly guy. Doo-doo, for getting it done and being the NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. You know, it's funny, in the comment section of that post that Washington put out, celebrating and acknowledging Joey Sly, all anybody wanted to talk about was the missed extra point. That's so, that's so prisoner of the moment, okay? Yeah, he missed the extra point. Yeah, it almost loomed large. Absolutely. And I'm not telling you to absolve him of wrongdoing. However, Joey Sly was huge this month. Okay? We scored more field goals than touchdowns this month. Just understand where our offense is. Understand how big he was in the Philadelphia Eagle game alone. Understand that without his 4 field goals in that game, we don't beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And there were bombs. These weren't, 24 like it was against Houston where we were kicking all these, 24 and 27-yard field goals and we weren't punching it in the red zone. No, these were bombs. This was 58 and it was 55. Okay? Understand what Joey Sly has meant to this 6 out of 7 game, heater that we're on right now. Don't overlook. Don't be that guy. Okay? Joey Sly deserves it. And back-to-back months of Washington Commanders winning Special Teams Player of the Month. Tressway was last month rather. This month it's Joey Sly. Congratulations to Joey Sly. Let's take a look at the injury report for Week 13 as we head into this contest versus the New York Giants. So there's an interesting development today that alarms me a bit. Now, we are heading into our bye week, but I don't want to overreact. I don't want to panic because he's a tough guy. But going from limited to DMP on a Thursday does not instill confidence in me. So I already told you Dax Mills not playing this week. Benjamin St-Juste isn't playing this week. And I don't think Trey Turner's going to play this week, which is why they stuck Sam Cosmi in at guard. But Antonio Gibson being limited with a foot injury does alarm me. Now, he went from limited to DMP on Thursday. That's the thing that if he were limited again today, I wouldn't have even batted an eye and we wouldn't be talking about it right now. I would have glossed over it and we would have kept it pushing. Just like everybody else that was limited yesterday was limited today. I don't have anything to add. I expect every single one of those guys to play, including Chase Young, if there are no setbacks. Gibson going from limited to DMP worries me. Now, we'll see. He's only missed 2 games in his career, and they were both in his rookie season. Got hurt against the Steelers on that Monday night, and then missed the 2 following games against Seattle and San Francisco and Seattle. And then he came back for the Carolina game. Didn't miss a single game last year. He's a tough guy. If he can, he will be on the field. But if it's something that they feel like, look, we don't want to push it, we got the bye week, he'll be ready after the bye, by all means. That's why Jonathan Taylor got some run last week. You pull up Jarrett Patterson, and you keep the party going. I want him out there, though. He's not only is he huge in the run game and the pass game as a receiver, but he's been really good on kickoffs for us as a kickoff return man. So I'd really like to see Antonio Gibson out there, if at all possible. So nothing really after that moves the needle. Everybody else that was limited yesterday, limited again today. We'll see what happens. But you go from Washington to the Giants, and again, this is a laundry list, but we got a better picture of what's going on with them today. So Gary Brightwell, limited with an illness, he's going to be okay. He's going to play on Sunday. Again, barring a setback. Josh Zudu, rookie offensive lineman, he's going to probably be out of this game. Same with Adoree Jackson. I already told you he was going to be out of this game because he's got a serious injury that's going to keep him out for at least another game or 2 after this game. Richie James, limited. That's a little worrisome because, again, we don't talk about Richie James a lot, but he's their second leading receiver this year. And he's their primary punt returner now. So if he doesn't play, they've got a couple of roles to fill. He's been really good for them in the past game. And even though he's had some fumbling issues as a punt returner, he's dynamic back there as well. So he may be able to go. I didn't think he would, but maybe he will be able to go. Shane Lemieux, toe, probably won't be able to go. Daniel Bellinger, missed the last 2 games, may be able to play this week. He's their leading touchdown receiver this season. I'd love it if he couldn't go, but we'll see. He's not a massive difference maker, but he is when they get around the red zone. They love to find Daniel Bellinger. He's a big target. If he doesn't go, that'll be a help for us. Dane Belton, defensive back, clavicle, limited. Carter Coughlin, edge rusher, limited. John Feliciano interior offensive linemen limited. Cordell Flott, the rookie slot corner, full. Wow, with a concussion. I was hoping he wouldn't be able to go because they were really struggling in the secondary without him and a couple of other guys. I don't know if Cordell Flott played or not against Dallas. I don't think he did, but they were struggling with a lot of guys out. It would have been nice to have been able to take advantage of that as well, but it looks like he'll be able to go. Darnay Holmes, another corner that plays a ton of snaps for them. Same with Fabian Moreau, both limited. I think those guys are going to play. I'm starting to get a sense that they're going to play. Leonard Williams limited with the neck. I think he's going to play, but we'll see. Evan Neal full. We talked about that yesterday. And Tyree Phillips, another offensive lineman, full. Those guys are going to play. Darius Slayton popped up on the injury report today. Wasn't there yesterday with an illness. And so that's one to keep an eye on. We'll see how that progresses. But, he's their leading receiver. No Darius Slayton means we got nothing to worry about in the pass game if he doesn't play. So he's got 3 days or so to get his act together and be ready to play. But if he's out, let's say that he just got the flu, and I don't wish this on anybody. Let's say he just got the flu, was feeling bad Wednesday night, didn't practice Thursday, doesn't practice Friday, isn't able to keep anything down, isn't eating, and then he starts to feel better Saturday, but he's lost weight and he's a little weak. He could be, not as big of a factor on Sunday, even if he plays. We'll see. Just keep an eye on Darius Slayton because I think he's going to play. Still early enough in the week where he can overcome whatever he's dealing with and be ready to go on Sunday. But will he be himself is the question. I don't know, but we'll keep an eye on that. So, heard from the coordinators today. Nothing really noteworthy from either one of them. I told you that Scott Turner was going to field the same question that Ron fielded yesterday about Jahan Dotson's lack of targets. I already told you what the end result is going to be. I would bet any amount of money that on either the first, I'm going to say the first possession, but it can't be a 3 and out. But whether it's the first possession, it's going to be early in the game. I just know that Jahan Dotson's going to get a touch, whether it's a wide receiver screen or it's a jet sweep or it's some kind, he's going to touch the football on one of the first 2 possessions. Okay. So he's asked about Jahan and you got the same answer that I gave you, that Ron gave you. Essentially, look, it's a lot of guys, a lot of mouths to feed. When we're doing the things that we're doing, running the football, there are going to be games where this guy doesn't get it or that guy doesn't get it. But everybody's, and he's like, look, Jahan's running routes and guys are open on film and they just didn't get the football. And there's some of that, where guys are open and, Taylor's working the opposite side of the field. And I've already said this. If his first read is open, don't you want him to throw it to that guy? Like, if Jahan's the third read on a play and the first read is open or the first read isn't, but the second read is, that's where he's going with the football. If Jahan's on the back side of a play and he's wide open, but he's working the front side, he may not ever get to the back side of that play. But that's where the coordinator comes in, because if you want to get a guy involved, you make him the primary read, right? You call a play where he's the primary look on that play. And you see, now again, Scott Turner could have done that 3-4 times for Jahan Dotson, and the coverage dictated that he didn't get the football. Well, then in that case, you make sure he gets it. Slant. Right? Like, Terry's not the only guy on the team that can run a slant. Like, that's the thing that kind of boggles the mind is like, we beg for slants and then we finally get them, but the only guy that's getting one is Terry. Nobody else is getting a slant. Jahan can run a slant too, So, doesn't always have to be wide receiver screen or jet sweep to get Jahan involved. He can run other routes. He can do other things. But he's going to get the ball this week. Scott talked about Sam Cosmi being inserted to guard. And he said, look, this is an instance of got a guy down and you really want to put your 5 best offensive linemen on the field. And, Cole Luke has just been playing so well this season. They don't want to pull him off the field. And they think Cosmi adds value to this line. And, they've been getting Cosmi in there, whether it's been to sub out Cole Luke or it's been to get him in on obvious rundowns as an extra offensive lineman. They think Cosmi adds value, especially in the run game. And so I think we're going to see Sam Cosmi at right guard on Sunday. And again, this might end up being a revelation. Trey Turner could get healthy after the bye, and they could say, "Hey Trey, hold on for a second. We want to see where this goes," or they could just go back to him, and Cosme could be there, kind of just waiting in the wings. I prefer them to get 76 on the field. You spent a second round pick on this dude. I'd like for him to be playing, whether it's at guard or tackle. I don't give a shit. Get him on the field, okay? So Trey Turner can be ready to come off the bench, but let the young fella play. Let the young fella cook. So we'll see what happens with Cosme, but it sounds like he's going to get the nod this week if all goes well during the week of practice. More Taylor Heineke talk. Nothing really noteworthy there. More offense talk. And then he talked about the complementary football, the special teams, and what they've meant to the team. And, he talked about feeling good as a play caller, knowing that you just got to get to a certain landmark on the field and you're going to have an opportunity to put 3 points on the scoreboard, which does feel good. It does feel good when you got a guy like Joey Sly, where you get to the 40, we at least are having a discussion about a field goal from 58 yards. That wasn't the case when we had Dustin Hopkins. So then you get to Jack Del Rio, and, comparisons were made to another stellar defensive tackle tandem that he coached in Jacksonville, in John Henderson and Marcus Stroud. And he's like, he really wasn't big on comparing, the two, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and Marcus Stroud, which they were two totally different defensive tackles. If you remember those two, they were huge. John Henderson was every bit of 330 probably. Stroud was more on the smaller side, but he was still like 310. It's funny I say he's smaller, but he's like 310, 305, 310. Both of our guys are sub 300 pounds. I mean, Deron Payne may be like 302 or 305 or something, but our guys are more nimble. They're quicker than those guys were. Those guys were physical brutes in the middle, but they could also, especially Stroud, also show you a little bit of quickness. Anyway, they're totally different players, style of play, but he would have none of it. He talked about Saquon Barkley and the challenge that he poses. He talked about this defense and the growth that they've shown, and how they continue to develop the young guys and play them. Obviously, we just played SIP, Christian Holmes, on Sunday against the Falcons, and he's like, that's a testament to the coaching staff and getting these guys ready. They play special teams, and you get them out there, give them an opportunity, and they're taking advantage of it. And so, nothing really big. He talked about, wanting to get Chase Young back, can't wait. But, what he wants to see from him is come in and be a part of the scheme. Don't try to be the scheme. Be a part of the scheme. Fit into what everybody else is doing. You can still be an alpha within the scheme. Don't try to go and do your own thing, essentially is the message he delivered about Chase Young upon his return. And I think it could be this week. They thought it was going to be last week, and then he got sick on Saturday. And so I think it could be this week again, barring any kind of setback. I think it could be this week that we see Chase Young on the field for 10, to maybe 15 snaps, somewhere in that neighborhood, in his first game back since week 10 of last season. So let's go ahead and transition to our next segment, and that's Behind Enemy Lines. The Washington Commanders started out the week as 3.5-point favorites over the New York Giants. That number has come down to 2.5. So money is definitely being thrown in there on the Giants. This is the second consecutive week we have been favored. This is not something that we're accustomed to, but we've been favored, quite a few times this year. Again, that's not something we're used to. We were favored against Jacksonville. We were favored against Chicago. We were favored against Houston. We were favored against Atlanta last week, and now we're favored again. So again, we're starting to get a little bit of respect, but not a ton. Okay, not a ton. But it doesn't matter. We don't care. That's interesting, not important. What is important is the New York Giants team that we'll be facing at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. That's 7-4 and reeling with 2 straight losses and looking to scratch and claw their way out of this hole and funk that they found themselves in. Everyone wants to write them off and tell them that their season is over. I've been very, very critical of the Giants, pretty much saying, hey, jigs up. All right, we know who you are. Come out with their hands up, and we won't have to use any physical force, okay? And the Giants aren't trying to hear that shit. They fought to get to this point. They've found ways to win football games, and they're thinking on Sunday they're going to do it again and, put themselves right back where they need to be to try to make the playoffs. Our job is to stop them from doing that, continue their downward spiral and descent to the bottom of the division and out of the playoffs. And look, whether they make the playoffs or not, that's not my concern, okay? I would love nothing more than to have all 4 NFC East teams, but my problem isn't the Giants making the playoffs. We're going to do what we need to do to try to beat them twice. And then what they do after that is on them. Whether they beat Philadelphia the week after we beat them this week, we hope, or after we play them, they got the Eagles and then we play them again. Whatever they do against the Eagles in those 2 games, they got Philadelphia twice, the next week and then the last week of the season. That's on them. All right. What they do against their remaining schedule, that's on them. That got nothing to do with us. We got them twice and we need to try to beat them twice. And I just want to point out a couple of things. One, I've talked about this. I can't stress this enough. They don't have the horses offensively to beat us without help unless they run the football. Okay? They're going to have to trick us, just like the Tennessee Titans did with a flea flicker. Okay? That's the kind of offensive talent that they're putting on the field. They're going to have to trick us in order to have some type of success. Now, Darius Slayton can run, and he's gotten behind our defense before. You remember the game week 2 last year where he dropped that touchdown? Daniel Jones could have made a better throw, but he should have caught that football. He was wide ass open. Okay? He can run. Darius Slayton can still run. Okay? And if he's healthy, and I think he's going to play, even though he's got an illness now that we talked about earlier in the show, I think he's going to play. And if he does, we do need to be very vigilant of where he is on the football field and what he's capable of. Because the Giants are capable of putting together long drives just like we are. They've been a grinded out team all season long. However, they're a team that will struggle in those situations too. So don't give them any chunk plays. Don't give them an opportunity to score after a 47-yard strike or a 37-yard Saquon Barkley run or a 28-yard Daniel Jones run on a read option. Like, don't give those up. Make them systematically earn their way down the field. And if they do, make them continue to do it and punch it into the end zone. They're an offensively challenged team, just like we are at times, to score points. Make them have to do it consistently. So I want to point something else out with them. This is a second half team. They've been one all season long. And they continue to be a second half team, and they score a ton of points. They're one of the highest scoring second half teams in the league. All right. They came back. They were down 13-0 at halftime to the Tennessee Titans in week 1. And they came back and won that football game 21-20. And they scored all of their 21 points in the second half. We know it's well documented about this team and what they do in terms of coming back and beating teams. So we have to be very vigilant about the Giants, even if they get off to a slow start. And at halftime, we're up, 14-6 or 17-6. You can't just think, oh, we got them. Their best football has been played for most of the season in the second half. They've been a strong third quarter team and an even better fourth quarter team. When the game is on the line and it matters most, that's when they've played their best football this season. A great indicator of what's going on will be how we start the game against the Giants. Are we able to hold them down? And then the third quarter, how do we come out of the halftime locker room? How do we, attack them? They've made great adjustments this season, have the Giants, after halftime, and they've come out and they've executed. This is a team that fights to the very bitter end. That's how they beat the Ravens. That's how they beat the Green Bay Packers. That's how they sustained the game against the Bears. They came out quick against the Bears and then held on for dear life. They've been a second half team all season long. That's what they did to the Houston Texans. If we're going to beat them, we're going to have to play solid football for 4 quarters. Okay? 4 entire quarters. I think we've done that the last 2 weeks. I felt really good about our 4-quarter performance against the Atlanta Falcons. There wasn't a lull or a period where we were struggling. There were periods where we didn't maximize opportunities. But it was never oh man, we've won 3 and out 3 straight times, or man, the defense is getting destroyed right now. We can't get a stop to save our lives. There was never a period in the game where that occurred last week against Atlanta or the week prior against Houston. So we're starting to play complementary football more consistently for 4 quarters. And if we can do that against the Giants, we'll have a great opportunity to take them down. Here's something else, and this is one of the biggest things that I'm going to talk about tomorrow when we talk about keys to the game, but I'm going to talk about it right now. There aren't many teams that blitz more in the NFL than the New York Giants. That is their defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale's calling card. Similar to Todd Bowles in Tampa Bay, similar to, a couple of other teams around the league. This is a blitzing, aggressive, attacking defense. When they don't blitz, they don't get pressure on the quarterback. They're not a high sack team, okay? They're not going to, and they've never been a high sack team, have the Giants, okay? Not since the days of O.C. Umenyiora, Justin Tuck, and Strahan. They haven't been, sacking teams, since those days with Matthias Kiwanuka and guys like that. They haven't been sacking teams. So that's not their MO anymore. But what they will do is they'll send a cat blitz. They'll send 7 guys. They'll send 6 guys. They'll overload a side, drop out on the other side. We better be prepared on 3rd down and medium to 3rd down and long. We better be prepared to deal with the blitz. Because when we got blitzed by the Bears earlier this season, when we got blitzed by the Lions earlier this season, we did not handle that shit very well. When the Cowboys blitzed us, we did not handle it very well. And I am fully aware that those were, earlier times when the offensive line had not been solidified. I'm just telling you, be prepared. Be prepared. They're going to blitz early, and they're going to blitz often. And like Dallas did last week, like the Lions did the week previous, when they come, you better be prepared, and you better eat their ass alive. Pause. Cook their ass. Because when you blitz, you're leaving guys on an island, one-on-one. And whether Fabian Moreau plays or not, attack his ass. Adoree Jackson is not going to play. They're going to have young guys in that secondary. All over it. Safety, corner, cook their ass. Make them pay. They're probably going to load up to stop the run, and they're going to probably dare Taylor Heinicke to beat them. Their goal is, and I'm going to tell you, more likely than not, their goal is to come in on 1st and 2nd down, stop the run, force Washington into 3rd and long, and come after Taylor Heinicke and challenge this offensive line and Taylor Heinicke to make smart decisions time after time. Because all you need is one bad decision. Heinicke can be stroking it. He can be playing well. And then all it takes is for them to continue to apply pressure, and him make one mistake. And that's all they need. That's all they're looking for. If they blitz 6 times and we pick it up 5 times and we have success, but on the 6th time, he makes a mistake, or someone doesn't make the right call, or someone doesn't fan out quick enough, or we don't pick up and account for a defender and Heinicke doesn't see it, and he gets hit and the ball comes out, or he throws it right to a defender that he didn't see dropping because he sees the blitz and he's anticipating blitz and he thinks no one's there, and he throws it right to a defender, well, then it was all worth it. We got to do the smart thing. And Dallas, they forced turnovers against Dallas. They picked off Dak Prescott twice. They got a 4th down stop. This Giants defense is still playing ball. This notion that, oh my God, the Giants are spiraling out of control. If you haven't watched, they're not dead. This notion of the Giants' death, grossly overstated. Okay? They are not dead. Far from it. And if you don't attack them aggressively, they'll be more than alive against us. You know they play some of their best football when they see us coming. So we better be prepared. Daniel Jones, we know what he's done against us in the past. He's due for a stinker or two against us. This is the year to get it. I'm sick of it. This is the year to get it. But he's not going to give it to us. Not with a smart head coach in Brian Daboll, who's great at attacking other teams' weaknesses, that does a great job of putting Daniel Jones in very manageable positions. They're going to run a lot of bootlegs. They're going to run a lot of misdirection to get guys open. They've been doing it all season long. And if we're not on our P's and Q's, Y's and Z's, they'll be having some success against us. We'll get into it some more tomorrow. Let's wet your palate a little bit more after we popped the seal on the Giants yesterday. Tomorrow, we'll dive in deep and we'll get to keys to the game and ultimately what we think is going to transpire. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you again tomorrow. For those of you who are just football fans like myself, I'll see you later on tonight for the conclusion of Bills and Patriots. That should be a fun game in the AFC East, the only other division with every single team over 500. Somebody's going to lose tonight. And if the Patriots lose, every team in the division isn't over 500 anymore. They'll be 6-6 instead of 7-5. They're 6-5 right now. We'll see what the Patriots do in terms of fighting in that game. But I look forward to seeing a lot of you for that live stream on Overtime. If not, I'll see you tomorrow for Commanders Nightly News. Until then, you guys take care. God bless, and good night.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.